Hi and welcome. So we did it. This is part 5 of our series on Azure Container Apps, going from a local function to the cloud. In this video, we're going to deploy our container that we've been testing and our function that we've been testing to Azure Container Apps. So first thing that I want to do here is deploy it the conventional way. We're not going to use any type of infrastructure as code right now. In other videos, I'll show you how to deploy these containers with Terraform and with the Azure CLI. But for now, we're going basically with Azure. So here I'm just selecting my container version and I'm selecting the compute. Uh, but the next part here is the ingress. For Azure Container Apps, they're using Envoy as their container for load balancing, and Envoy is a powerful proxy. It lets you do very secure deployments. Uh, not only load balancing, but it has advancing routing capabilities. Like you could do blue-green deployments, and we'll see that in a little bit. But right now, let's configure our options. So here I'm just doing it as if I would do it in Kubernetes. So I'm specifying the port that I want the client to talk on and the port to route traffic to the container. Always add your tags. Here's a demo, so I'm not adding any tags, but always tag your resources properly. Um, and now that we have our container ready, let's go into a couple of details here. So the first thing that I like from Azure Container Apps is the fact that I can do revisions, and revisions are what I was talking about in the beginning, where you could have a blue green deployment, you could have uh, canary deployment. So uh, you can say you can have traffic splitting. So you could say 80% of traffic goes to the new container, 20% goes to the old one, or vice versa, depending if you're just deploying a new one. But one cool thing that I'll explain in later videos, but I want to put as as a note, is that you could also use labels. So even if you have zero traffic going to one container and 100% going to another revision, you can always target those containers, even though it's 0% with labels. So it's a really cool feature for testing and development. So I wanted to point out one of my favorite features is revision and traffic management for an Azure Container App. So it uses Kata in the background, just like we did in our previous demo with Kubernetes that we deployed Kata. So that's exactly what's happening here. Um, so moving on, once we have the container, we get our URL. So Azure gives us the URL, and we can see the containers up and running. Uh, I was running into a few issues here, and the issues I was running on was because I I'm using the Google API, right? And so one of the things I want to point out is that the login that we get right from Azure and with the Python library logging is very detailed. So right now we can see that the API key has an IP address restriction, right? Because it's coming from a new container. I had whitelisted my IP from on-prem, but now that I'm going from Azure, I have to whitelist that. And now that I've done so, I can go back to my Postman. Sorry, I'm using a Thunder client, and I can test a book here. So I'm gonna search for the three body problem, and let's see. So great. I'm also using a function key, so it's secure here. Great. So I see the output. The last thing is I am getting my function into my app. So this is how it looks at in the front end. I'm not going to share the code, but basically this output, I want to do a book search, and when I look for a book, same book that I got, I get the result in my app, and it looks a little prettier, so the user can add the book that they're looking for. Uh, so that is that is the whole thing. So I wanted to show you in this series, we went from using the core tools all the way to deploying the container to Azure Container Apps. And you can see the container, the integration with not only Kubernetes on-prem, but also Azure Container Apps, and the integration with our Django application here. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. I'll do some more, and please, any questions that you have, leave them on the comment below, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. All right. Thank you for sticking around, and see you in the next one.